A very good evening to you. It is the 25th day of February 2019. Thank you so much for joining us in our top stories. Tonight, cybercrime, money laundering and aiding terrorism. DPP's startling revelations on Diamond Trust Bank.
I'm sorry to say this because you've asked, but in my opinion, they have become notorious in flouting those rules.
Also tonight, Iran admits buying tickets for detained citizens but denies prison break plan.
He told me that he is PA to Interior Minister and he has been instructed by Interior Minister to tell me we have to prepare the tickets for these two Iranians to go back.
Plus, 5.9 billion shillings later, and the Irrigation Board is asking Kenyans for more time.
Once we get a contractor on site, within a maximum of 1 year, we should have completed all the pending works.
And he locked down a 10 million shillings land deal on a phone call with the president, but it was a scam.
NTV Tonight with Zainab Ismail.
Welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language interpreter this evening is David Agondoa. Now, trust is integral to any relationship, and the trust between the National Irrigation Board and the Israeli firm contracted to bring to life the Galana Kulalu food project, Green Arava, is broken. But as the NIB seeks to untangle itself from the contract it entered into with Green Arava, the question then becomes, can the Kenyan taxpayer trust that it has gotten value for the 5.9 billion shillings already spent on the project, and can they trust that it will be completed to fruition? On NTV Tonight, Olive Barrows seeks to establish just that.
1 year, 11 months and 24 days, basically 2 years. That is how far behind schedule the completion of the 10,000-acre Galana Kulalu model farm is. And now, the National Irrigation Board is begging your indulgence for another year at least, as it seeks to extract itself from the dysfunctional relationship it blames for the inordinate delay.
Once we get a contractor on site, within a maximum of 1 year, we should have completed all the pending works.
You're still optimistic?
Let me say that there's nothing really hard, such that we feel that in the exit of an Israeli, somebody else cannot do this.
But if matters are so simple, why has the Galana Kulalu food project gone so far off track? The NIB points to the Israeli contractor Green Arava, which they accuse of lacking transparency in its dealings, unable to support its demand for a 1.2 billion shilling advance payment to complete the works on the 10,000-acre model farm.
Now the contractor says he cannot pre-finance the government of Kenya. That's normally that is a stake. Unless we pay for this as the year, then he cannot do what? He cannot purchase the same. So when you look at the Financial Management Act, when should you pay and our services for NIB for us to pay, then we look and we see we are vulnerable. So what we are telling the contractor is this, and what we have been settled is this: let him support certificate number 11. Let him break down the lump sum items and support the certificate in terms of bill of landing for goods which have already been purchased so that we can pay.
NIB's management blowing the whistle on their own project, keen to avoid the notorious Kamata Fridays as a result of abetting an illegality. If indeed this is the correct position, it raises the question why the Israelis, who've previously shipped in equipment for the project, would seek to veer so drastically off the course of their previous dealings with the NIB.
The contractor today, he has not surrendered all the monies and paid in advance. There is a fear that probably this contractor, the liquidity level, or in terms of his liquidity, there's a problem.
This demand being the straw that broke the camel's back, as NIB tells it, accusing Green Arava of inflating the cost estimations by up to 3,700% and being dishonest about the true state of progress on the Galana Kulalu model farm. all of which has led to operations on the farm stalling for approximately a year. And if indeed Green Arava is the villain in this story, what does it all mean for the Kenyan taxpayer?
We owe him about 8 million Kenya shillings.
80 or 8?
8 million Kenya shillings. Now, there is what we call performance security or performance bond in this contract of 96 million Kenya shillings. And the moment we disengage, we'll be recording this money immediately.
But it may not be quite as simple as that.
We have already now written to the HG, because you see that that's contract loan agreement, you know, it has several clauses. So we are just trying to be careful whether, in case of disengagement, what happens to the balance of the loan? Will it be available such that we can finance another contractor? Or now what really happens?
But the NIB concedes delays in payment have contributed to the delay in the full realization of the project, as have extreme weather events, as Green Arava contends. Still, they insist accommodations were made, and having failed to deliver, they say, it's time for Green Arava to pack up and go. Olive Burrows, NTV.
All right, and a suspect accused of financing the Dusit complex attack that left 21 people dead will remain in custody for 10 more days until he is presented in court again on the 7th of March. Sadiq Aden Mumin is accused of aiding and abetting the Dusit terrorist attack by financially facilitating the terrorists. Authorities believe he is linked to suspects living in South Africa who allegedly sent him money. Mumin allegedly registered more than 52 phone lines through which he received money from South Africa. The prosecution says he withdrew through his 2 till numbers and used it to fund the attack. The prosecution has asked for time to conduct investigations which they believe extend beyond the borders to Somalia and South Africa. Now tonight, the Diamond Trust Bank is on the spot after Director of Public Prosecutions Nordin Haji accused the financial institution of aiding and abetting terrorism. Haji told Parliament's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee that the bank failed to flag curious financial transactions that could have been used to finance the Riverside attack. NTV's Solai has more on the DPP's revelations.
The Director of Public Prosecutions was appearing before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee to make a routine case for more money for his department to the tune of 700 million shillings. But he threw the sessions into a spin with the startling revelations about financial transactions that may have been channeled to facilitate the 14 Riverside terrorist attack.
No, I think...
The DPP says investigations show how suspected terrorists irregularly withdrew millions of shillings from the Diamond Trust Bank's Eastleigh branch. He illustrated how sums of money were moved to facilitate the attack.
Within a week, somebody is withdrawing 30 million. And within 2 minutes, you see somebody withdrawing 5 million from M-Pesa. This money was going to Jilib, which is the headquarters of Al-Shabaab, not just anywhere in Somalia. Just to clarify, so that people don't think we are penalizing this particular bank. We are not.
Haji told the Parliamentary Committee that the bank has largely been involved in other criminal activities.
Diamond Trust Bank. We have cited them for several breaches of their obligations to report. From NYS cases to other organized crime cases, especially cybercrime. And they have become, I'm sorry to say this because you've asked, but in my opinion, they have become notorious in flouting those rules.
The DPP also claims the bank has not been cooperating with investigators looking into the Riverside attack.
And we've asked even for CCTV footages, which the bank has been reluctant to give us. And we are therefore concluding that there must be some form of aiding and abetting. What else would we charge them for?
The bank has been accused of trying to use other channels to cover up its alleged involvement in aiding terrorism.
They have been running the whole of this town to try and influence us not to charge it, which is unacceptable.
Diamond Trust Bank manager Sophia Njoki Njogu, who was arrested in connection with the attack, was released on a 2 million shillings cash bail. She was charged with aiding and abetting the 14 Riverside terror attack for not reporting suspicious money transactions amounting to over 30 million shillings, money that was allegedly used to fund the attack.
I cannot come up and say, I did not know that this was a terrorist. The question is, why did you have weak systems and mechanisms to be misused by criminals?
We are actually protecting them. We are actually protecting them and their customers by charging them on this, so that they don't have an international backlash.
The DPP, who presented the 2019-2020 budget to the committee, asked for an additional 700 million shillings to enable the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution to work more efficiently. A number of bank officials implicated in cybercrime and terrorism cases have been arrested and arraigned in court. The full hearing of those cases yet to commence. Seth Olale, NTV Parliament Building.
All right, and away from that, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has summoned hundreds of directors from companies for questioning on Tuesday over the 63 billion shilling Aror and Kimwarer multi-purpose dams in Elgeyo Marakwet County. Now, DCI boss George Kinoti has listed 107 companies whom he once questioned over the controversial dams whose construction was valued at 63 billion shillings in dubious deals. The construction of Aror Dam is estimated to cost 38.5 billion shillings, and the dam Kimwarer was costing 28 billion shillings. Now, directors of the firms are required to provide quotations, invoices, delivery notes, and other relevant documents related to the contracts. Now, the dams were for the production of the hydroelectricity and irrigation in the region to mitigate the perennial challenges of drought, boost food production, and increase electricity output. Now, a down payment of 4.9 billion shillings has already been made for the design of Aror Dam. Of course, and away from that, now besieged Samburu Governor Moses Lenol Kulal Kasaine recorded a statement with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission this morning as investigations into the theft of 2 billion shillings of county funds continue. The governor has denied any wrongdoing and pledged to cooperate fully with the investigators. He is accused alongside other senior officers and contractors from Samburu County of embezzling public funds.
It was a turn of the Samburu governor to go through the revolving doors at the EACC headquarters. Moses Kasaine answered summons to appear before the EACC detectives shortly after 8 a.m. Monday. And for 5 hours, he answered questions and gave his version of events in the probe into the multi-billion shillings theft of money from Samburu County. And when he emerged from the session that also saw him record a statement, it was to a denial of any wrongdoing.
The only bit we are committed to is to fully support the investigations, to facilitate the investigations, and we hope that this will come to an end in the most expeditious and the most fair way.
The governor has been accused alongside other county staff and contractors of fleecing the marginalized county of over 2 billion shillings. The proceeds of these irregular transactions are believed to have been used by the governor and his co-accused to purchase prime real estate property in Nairobi and Samburu. The governor's palatial current homes in Nairobi, in Samburu, a petrol station in Samburu, and a tourist resort, just a fraction of what the stolen money has been used to acquire. He, however, says he has been unfairly targeted.
We've been tried, executed, and sentenced through press, and we're just hoping that this will go on professionally, and that we are ready, as I indicated, for fair trial.
The EACC believes it is building a watertight case against the governor and his accomplices and will be moving to court to charge him. The anti-graft body is also seeking to freeze his accounts and repossess the property that they believe was acquired fraudulently. The governor maintains that his hands are clean and wants a speedy investigation into this scandal that has thrust him into the limelight and not in the very best of ways. Brenda Wanga, NTV, Nairobi.
Now deep inside, Kerio Valley, Now, deep inside Kerio Valley lies what is shaping up to be Kenya's most expensive thicket, valued at slightly above 38 billion shillings. Yes, you had that right. 38 billion shillings. And there is more. Here in this lush valley, there is a dam. Of course, you can't see it because it's not really there. Yet the government has already paid 21 billion shillings for it, even against the advice of the Attorney General. Inside the Daily Nation tomorrow, the story of one of Kenya's most bizarre corruption scandals and why the fat cats can't get enough of your money. You do not want to miss your copy of the Daily Nation tomorrow. Now, of course, that story will be running tomorrow. Don't miss that copy of the Daily Nation. Now, the Iranian embassy has admitted reserving flight tickets for 2 Iranian nationals who have been in custody on suspicion of aiding or abating terrorism, but denies attempting to sneak them out of prison. Iranian ambassador to Kenya, Hadi Farajvand, says he was approached by 2 men who purportedly worked for the Ministry of Interior and who demanded money to help secure their release. 3 suspects who allegedly defrauded the Iranian ambassador were today paraded in court. And as Ken Mijungu reports, the prosecution wants them detained for 20 more days to allow for further investigations.
The 3 suspects, Wesley Kiptanui Kipkemoi, Robin Bundi Nyangaresi and Shem Grant Agie, will spend another night in police custody awaiting a court decision on their bond application. The prosecution wants them detained for 20 more days to allow the anti-terror police conclude its investigations into the allegations that they impersonated senior officials of the Interior Ministry and allegedly defrauded the Iranian ambassador to Kenya, Hadi Farajvand, of money under the guise that they will secure the release of the 2 Iranian nationals in police custody. Iran is denying any role in the attempts to break out the 2 suspects ahead of a Supreme Court that will determine if they will be released or not. The Court of Appeal had earlier set them free.
The story is like that. We have 2 pigeons in one cage, and the embassy is going to open the door for cage and say the pigeon, okay, fly back to your nation or country. These 2 people are kept heavily by Kenyan police, and we have no reason to escape them because the High Court has already set them free.
These allegations have Tehran on edge and Nairobi perturbed. Iran's ambassador to Kenya is not denying the allegations. He says the embassy had even reserved tickets for the 2 convicts, but explains this was based on the advice given by the 2 suspects pretending to hold brief for the DPP and the Ministry of Interior. The deal, however, went so when the 3 suspects asked the embassy to facilitate the freedom of the 2 Iranians.
I immediately contacted, through my secretary, the personal assistance to the Interior Minister, and I reported the case to the Interior Minister.
CCTV footage doing rounds also suggests that the ambassador himself went to reserve the ticket. He, however, finds nothing wrong with booking a flight for persons he believed were on their way out.
Reserving the ticket doesn't mean that we want to escape them. Even previously, when the High Court set them free, we immediately booked the ticket. Yeah, Court of Appeal and High Court. We immediately booked the ticket because we understood that since the High Court or Court of Appeal set them free, they will be escorted to the airport to go back.
Security sources suspect the 2 Iranian nationals, Ahmad Mohammed and Sayed Mansour, are members of an elite unit of Iranian's Revolutionary Guard that carries out covert foreign missions, including terror attacks. They are linked to a lethal explosive found at the coast and were accused of planning a terror attack. A court sent them in for life, which was later commuted to a 15-year jail sentence by the High Court. The 3 suspects in the alleged scam are in police custody helping with investigations. Iran, despite a memo containing this explanation to the Ministry of Interior this afternoon. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
Now, the Director of Criminal Investigations will be forced to seek new avenues of sourcing for 4 members of Parliament accused of defaming their colleague, Wajir Women Representative Fatuma Gedi, after they failed to honour summons to appear at the DCI headquarters today. This loophole stems from an advisory from Parliament through an internal memo indicating that the matter does not touch on parliamentary work and thus could not be pursued further.
For the better part of Monday morning, journalists camped outside the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters, expecting MPs who have been mentioned in connection with defaming one of their own, Wajir Women Representative Fatuma Gedi. But as time elapsed, it became clear that the wait was in vain. The MPs are Eldas Adan Keinan, Fafis Abdihakim Mohamed, Isiolo Women Representative Rehema Jaldesa, and her Kirinyaga counterpart Wango Ingireshe. This is courtesy of a loophole communicated to the Clerk of the National Assembly through an internal memo indicating the matter was not touching on their parliamentary duties, thus could not be pursued further by Parliament. The letter from the DCI had called on the MPs to appear between Monday and Tuesday, but as it stands, they may not appear at all. The DCI is investigating their involvement in putting up and circulating a pornographic video that is alleged to be that of Gedi.
NTV.
The advisory from Parliament now puts the DCI into disarray as he has to issue fresh summons to the members individually to appear before them at a later date. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV at Parliament Buildings.
All right, now listen to this. He received a number of calls from various phone numbers with a man on the other end saying he was President Uhuru Kenyatta. They negotiated for a piece of land in Milimani in Nairobi County. They agreed and payment plans were made and executed. Only that it was not the president. It was a fraud. This is how Samia Africa chairman Naushad Merali allegedly lost 10 million shillings to fraudsters who mimicked President Uhuru Kenyatta's voice in phone conversations. The cons in President Kenyatta's voice called Merali using the mobile phone number 0722 208-842, seeking to facilitate the release of the money for the land. Merali was not in the country, and so he directed Akif Ahmed Bhat, the finance director at Samia Africa, to make the payment. The cons gave an equity bank account number where the funds were deposited. These are the details that were brought before the county when the 7 fraudsters were arraigned. The prosecution asked for the men to be detained for 10 days to allow for completion of investigations. And the cons had done their homework. On Truecaller, an application that finds mobile phone details, the number has been saved as Uhuru Kenyatta, Kenya. I don't know what you think of that. The fraudsters actually mimicked the president's voice and allegedly made 10 million out of that. I'd like to hear what you think of that. Our Twitter handle at NTV Kenya, subsequently at Zainab Ismail, the hashtag NTV Tonight. Let's take a short break. We come back with much more. Now, the High Court has ordered police to detain a man connected to the January Latema Road attack for 3 more days, pending further investigations into the attack that left 2 people injured. Mohammed Nuru Mohammed was arrested on Friday in Moyale at the Kenya-Ethiopia border. The prosecution says the investigations are complex and involve a number of agencies. They say the suspect could interfere with the probe if released. The prosecution told the court that Mohammed had procured a cart puller to carry the package across the city. The accused then left the package behind the guise that he had gone to get his identity card. The improvised explosive device went off moments later, injuring 2 people.
Yes, it's only one item which is being investigated.
And a post-mortem examination on the body of the late Beryl Adhiambo Ouma, who was allegedly murdered by the husband on Thursday last week in Kahawa Sukari, shows she died of strangulation. Government pathologist Peter Ndegwa also confirmed Beryl also suffered injuries to the head. The deceased family lawyer Evans Ondieki has called upon the DCI to speed up investigations. This follows internal wrangles between both families, leading to the postponement of the autopsy, which was scheduled for last Saturday. Beryl Ouma died last Thursday in what neighbors say was a case of domestic violence. The suspect is still in custody as police continue with investigations.
Baba, mama na kijana, they were together. Baba ya kijana alikuwa kwa scene na akanipigia akiwa kwa scene na akasema mtoto Beryl tuko naye hapa na akona daktari, mbona yeye hajashikwa?
The Senate has raised concern about the sluggish pace of implementing the recommendations that would right the wrongs that led to the tragedy at the Solai farm, where about 48 people lost their lives. The Justice and Legal Affairs, National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity and National Security Committees were on a truth-finding mission at the Solai farm, where they interacted with the residents and expressed displeasure over the inaction on their reports concerning the Solai Dam disaster. Sharon Baranga reports.
The Solai farm in Nakuru County made headlines last year after the walls of a dam collapsed, sending a cascade of devastation downstream. 48 people lost their lives and hundreds more lost their homes. Those scarred by the incident are still picking up the pieces of their shattered lives.
Hii nyumba moja is 850,000 Kenya shillings. If nothing else, from a mud house to a brick house, complete. Now, it's not to say we're compensating by the one they've lost. No, that's not, I'm saying that. What I'm saying is, let us also be rational in our argument and in our demand and in our justification for everything.
Why are we treating Mr. Patel as if he's a superior Kenyan? If Kenya Pipeline Aparastato can comply with an order of NEMA, why should Patel negotiate? Because what you're doing now, Abbas, is negotiating. You don't negotiate the law. Even on humanitarian grounds, Bwana Abbas. And what would be so difficult about giving these people food until the day they are paid?
3 Senate committees, the Justice and Legal Affairs, National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity, and National Security were however concerned that little had been done to right the wrongs that led to the tragedy, and that the recommendations that were approved and passed by Senate had not seen the light of day.
Tukio kama hii ingefanyika kwa wale mabonyenye, ingefanyika huko hapa Milimani, Nakuru, ingefanyika Karen, Nairobi, hii mambo ingekuwa imeisha zamani sana. Tunataka taifa ambapo pia Mkenya wa kawaida. Let us value the lives of the normal Kenyan.
In the report, the Select Committee, which was chaired by Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo, attributed the collapse of the dam to deliberate criminal acts and omissions on the part of the owner, Mansoor Patel, who is already facing criminal charges in Naivasha court.
Kwanza afanye what is right, do what is right. Kwa sababu nasema huyu ni mtu ako okay, ako able. Mbona haufuati sheria? Sasa nawaambia tu watu wa Solai, mjue kama Senate hatutawacha hii maneno. Kuna shida moja Kenya ya Wakenya. Wakenya tunapenda kusahau and to move on.
The report recommended that Patel decommissions the dams, restores the environment, and compensates all those affected by the tragedy.
Red Cross.
The report also called on the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to fast-track investigations towards prosecuting the Nakuru County Commissioner, his deputy, and the chief in Solai for abuse of office and obstruction of justice after it established that they forced victims to sign indemnity forms in exchange for cash payouts. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Margaret Kelelu, a nurse at Amref who went missing on Thursday, has been found at the Coast General Hospital in ICU. Margaret, who went missing from her home in Nairobi's Tena Estate, was found unconscious near Nyali Center in Mombasa. According to police reports, Margaret went to Kadzandani police post where she recorded a statement in the company of an unknown woman. The family says it is still trying to establish how she traveled to the coast from Nairobi. Before her disappearance, the family said she had been hospitalized at the Kenyatta National Hospital with a depression-related illness.
Josham walipelekwa aende kufanyiwa scanning ya kichwa na daktari akasema hana shida, ni kitu kama shock. So ikabidi kwa sababu Coast General ndo wamempokea na tunataka immediate assistant, tukamregesha tena huko na Kadara. Sasa nafikiri ni kwa sababu ile hana fahamu ndio ikabidi akapelekwa ICU.
I wish to confirm that the patient is in our ICU, is much better than when she came in. She is conscious now, but she is unable to speak. She is moving her limbs. So on our part, we feel that there is progress.
All right, and at this point, we're going to take yet another short break. When we come back, we bring you business news.
Welcome to NTV Business. I am Julian Amboko. All eyes will be on the Central Bank Governor Patrick Njoroge tomorrow, as he is expected to present himself before the National Assembly's Finance and National Planning Committee. Let's take a look at one of the key issues that is likely to shape tomorrow's session. The Banking Circular No. 1 of 2016 tightened the Central Bank of Kenya's oversight over commercial banks. In a quest to step up the fight against money laundering, the circular provided that banks would henceforward demand additional information for any over-the-counter transactions equivalent to or exceeding $10,000 or just about $1 million shillings. Such information would include why the transaction was necessary, why the transaction cannot be undertaken electronically, the source of the funds, to what use the funds are going to be put, and the full identity of intended beneficiaries. Members of Parliament are expected to grill the governor of CBK over what some of them have termed as regulations that have undermined the flow of cash in the economy.
So, the moment, you curtail the circulation of cash, then you suffocate liquidity within even the banking sector.
By MPs repealing what CBK has put as the guidelines regulation, you'll be seeing some adverse regulatory interference with what the role of the central bank is, which is to regulate the banking sector.
The Financial Action Task Force, an intergovernmental body which aims at safeguarding the global financial system against money laundering, advises that countries should identify risks, enhance transparency, and adopt preventive measures against money laundering. It is in this regard that Kenya passed the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act in 2009, which provides for applicable provisions to inhibit the use of the financial system to aid money laundering. How the National Assembly presents its case tomorrow will be a matter of great interest. Moving away from banking and into the Sacco Society. Less than 5 years since it was registered as a savings and credit outfit targeting employees of Gakuyu real estate, Ekeza Sacco grew into a fully fledged institution with 78,000 members and 2.5 billion shillings in savings before it suddenly went under. Victor Kiprop now follows the money trail of how the institution has sunk more than 1 billion shillings of members' deposits.
At first glance, the financials of Ekeza Sacco depict a healthy institution, with deposits growing by a tremendous 87.6% from slightly above 300 million shillings to over 2.5 billion shillings in just 3 years. But beneath the impressive numbers are mind-blowing details of a breach of financial regulations and a daring misappropriation of depositors' money. According to an audit by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, at least 53% of the Sacco's outstanding loan balance of 1.98 billion shillings as at the end of last year was amounts irregularly transferred to David Kariuki Ngari, the Sacco's chairman, and Gakuyu Real Estate Limited. Out of the 244 million shillings paid to SI Mwaura and co-advocates, for instance, only 10 million shillings went to activities of Ekeza Sacco Society. The irregular payments diluted the real asset loan portfolio to just 932 million shillings, about 560 million shillings of which was already bad loans which needed to be written off, leaving the Sacco with an active loan book of a mere 360 million shillings. Insider loans, which stood at over 4.6 million shillings, were also found to be one of the chronic problems ailing the Sacco. Anne Kanywa, for instance, a committee member with only 22,000 shillings in savings, was granted a loan of 524,000 shillings, which is more than 23 times her savings. Meanwhile, Honorary Secretary Gladys Wanjiku Muridhi and committee member Moses Kariuki Mwangi have loan balances of 3 and 4.2 million shillings respectively, which were no longer being serviced. Despite making deductions, Gakuyu Real Estate was also found not to have remitted more than 50 million shillings of employee contributions to the Sacco. The report also found that the Sacco operated too many unnecessary branches, including 2 in Nakuru, with some of them, such as those in Naivasha, making as much as 20,000 shillings in interest earnings for a whole quarter. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
And we apologize for that technical mishap. Back to M-Akiba, and the government is floating a second M-Akiba bond as it aims to raise 250 million shillings. Kenyans have 2 weeks to purchase the infrastructure bond as the government continues with its quest to raise a total of 5 billion shillings through the mobile-based platform, whose main aim is to foster financial inclusion. Alex Mwangi reports.
The last time the government set out to raise money via M-Akiba, the uptake was just shy of the 25% mark. It sought to raise 1 billion shillings but instead managed 247.5 million shillings. With a raft of lessons learned, it has now reopened the M-Akiba bond, this time targeting to raise 250 million shillings in 2 weeks.
Now this bond is technically a 1.5-year bond because it's a reopening. So if you compare that to a 1-year instrument right now in the market, which is giving you 9% before tax, this bond is at 10% after tax. So if you gross that up for tax, you're looking at something above 11.5% in terms of a return. Now, for a 1.5-year bond, this is a very attractive opportunity.
Since the first issue in March 2017, CDSC has paid out on behalf of the government a total of Kenya shillings 47,282,510 cents in interest to M-Akiba investors.
The minimum that one can invest in the M-Akiba retail bond is 3,000 shillings. Upwards of that amount, you can invest as much as you wish. So say, for instance, you have 15,000 shillings and you'd want to invest in M-Akiba. When is it that you're supposed to receive your interest payments? And when will you eventually get your principal amount back?
So we are halfway through the term. So from now to the end of the period is exactly 1.5 years. Interest is paid every 6 months. So you will expect an interest payment after 6 months, after 12 months, and then after the 18 months, you will get back your principal amount together with the last interest payment at the end of the 18 months.
The shortcode to purchase the bond via mobile phone is *889# with a separate CDSC account required to purchase the bond as compared to trade in ordinary stocks. The offer period runs from the 25th of February to the 8th of March, with trading of the bond expected to commence from the 12th of March. There will be 4 issues aimed at hitting the 5 billion shilling target, with Monday's launch being the first of the 4. Over 300,000 Kenyans so far have registered on M-Akiba. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
That's some good investment insight from Alex Mwangi there. Elsewhere, the Kenya electricity generating company KenGen has secured a multi-million shilling contract to supply geothermal drilling services to the Ethiopian electric power. The contract, which is for drilling in Aluto in southern Ethiopia, is financed by the World Bank through a loan to the Ethiopian government at 7.6 billion shillings. The project will be implemented in 2 phases. Phase 1, which will be purchase of drilling rigs, and Phase 2, which will entail the provision of drilling services. KenGen is supplying about 30% of the component of Phase 2, which translates to 620 million shillings. Ethiopia has been trying to venture into the geothermal development space since 1981, but is yet to make any commercial breakthrough. And that's it for NTV Business tonight. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.
All right, thank you so much, Julian.
Kisumu County National Environmental Management Authority Director Tom Togo told NTV on phone that they had stopped operations at the company's distillery and paper mill plants said to be responsible for the discharge of waste into the nearby River Kibos. Residents have been up in arms against the factory, saying the effluent released into the river was toxic to the people living around the area, together with their livestock. Just last week, Environment CS Keriako Tobiko assured residents that his ministry will take stern action against the factory if it is found culpable for discharging dangerous chemicals into the river.
We have a state-of-the-art
effluent discharge, effluent treatment plant, which is licensed by NEMA. We normally carry out tests on our treatments, and our tests consistently show that our treatment plant is extremely efficient. Whatever we treat, every effluent that we treat always comes out better quality than even the one that NEMA wants us to discharge into the environment. Because of the amount of accusations that we have been facing from the public, we decided to stop discharging that effluent to the coast of the river.
Kisumu Governor Anyang' Nyong'o, while acknowledging that Kibos Sugar was facing challenges in handling its waste, said the issue needs to be addressed once and for all. Ouko Kusa, NTV.
All right, and that report there by Okukusa brings us to yet another break. When we come back, Ida Waringa will be bringing you all the sporting action.
A very good evening to you, hoping your week has started well. My name is Ida Waringa. Let's play. Dennis Oliech did not play any part in Gor Mahia's 2-0 CAF Confederation win over Algeria's Hussein Dey, with reports that he stayed away from the team after Kogalu's failure to pay his sign-on fee as promised. NTV Sport caught up with Gor Mahia coach Hassan Oktay to find out his thoughts on the former Harambee Stars captain. So, amidst everything, does Oktay think that Dennis Oliech deserves a national team call-up?
Yes, I can say it. He's improved as a player. Don't forget, 1.5 seasons he didn't play, and then he comes and then he is giving 100% with the experience, and he talked to the young strikers. Is fantastic. It doesn't come out from me all the time or my staff. It comes out from the experience. Striker is as I said before, he understands my language, and he's a real pro. and to keep him in this football club is, to me, is not luxury, it's pleasure. I love to see him. And unfortunately in this pitch, he had injuries and then he couldn't come with us. And then he comes out from injury, he played 90 minutes. Look at how professional he is. And when he comes to the national side, it's not my priority. I'm not national, I'm only focused to Gor Mahia. But I can tell they can help because he loves Kenya. He didn't take any citizen for any country, and he's dying for his country, and keep someone, give him a chance there, I think it's a benefit. 100%, it's not 99%, it's 100% benefit for Kenya, I'm telling you.
Niaje, want to invest in a biashara that will take your hustle to the next level?